Hey y'all, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. When you see this video, thank you for joining me to our Theon through an Orthodox Christian lens. It's still September 27th, 2025. So let's go over what has transpired over the past few days regarding the Middle East. So I'm going to start there. We're going to go into a few articles and some videos. So, Spain joins Italy in dispatching Navy vessel to back humanitarian flotilla for Gaza. This came out on the 24th. Spain will send a Navy vessel to support the global Sumud Flotilla carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza, the Prime Minister announced in New York on Wednesday. So, a maritime action vessel equipped with all the necessary resources will set sail from Cartagena tomorrow in case it is necessary to assist the flotilla and carry out any rescues. So, according to the report, Madrid coordinated the move with Rome after the Italian government announced the deployment of the frigate Fason to assist Italian citizens on board and conduct potential relief operations. Spain's defense ministry has also contacted its Italian counterpart to explore a broader coordinated action, which could involve other countries such as Ireland. Yes, so we'll see what happens with that. I mean, Ireland is not quite close to where they are, but if they can get a vessel out there, I don't know how long that would take, but interesting. Now remember, this part is key here. Officials stressed that the mission of the European ships would not be to confront possible Israeli aggression, but rather to provide humanitarian assistance if needed. And the Spanish Navy vessel will operate in international waters. So the flotilla is made up of about 50 ships. As I said, it's going on. Now I'm going to show you a newest update from Mahmood and his channel. See if I can find where I have that. There it is. Let's see what he has to say.
Now with Greece confirming that they're joining in to help every one of these boats in its territories. The position of Greece is a little bit different than, for example, Italy and Spain, who confirmed that they will be siding with them, not far off, helping them up until they reach the Gaza Strip, with a level of uncertainty in relation to the point where they will be reaching the Gaza Strip and if there are any sort of acts of aggression and hostility and terrorism from the Israeli side. This is showing that, well, more countries are becoming more and more serious about this move. That, however, did not stop a suspicious airplane from coming next to some of these boats in the Mediterranean. There was published showing these fighter jets unknown. Again, they did not confirm that. It looks like an F-16. Many countries have F-16s. If it's not known, well, it could be several countries, but there's a very high likelihood that, of course, it is Israel. Again, however, there is likelihood that it could be any other country too. Okay. This, again, is proving that the situation is escalating and these moves are being taken seriously. As a matter of fact, there was also a confirmation that a Turkish warship was listening to some of the calls for assistance from the groups and some of the boats in the Mediterranean, and they confirmed that they listened to them. They had feedback with them back and forth. This, mind you, was confirmed on one account online called Clash Report, but the staff, according to the translation in that report, said that the Turkish warship listened immediately, and they said that we're here to assist you. Then, when it got darker, they saw it from a distance. So, we have in total so far 4 ships, 4 countries in the Mediterranean supporting the Sumud Flotilla, each country in its own capacity and without too many clarifications in relation to how far they'll go in protecting these ships. This is a very significant move. These are very significant developments, and they're not to be taken lightly, because Israel would have to consider every single step from now moving on up until these boats reach the Gaza Strip. And some of the people in Gaza now are showing more signs of hope that they will actually reach, with these reports that they are helping them. Some of the countries are helping them in the Mediterranean before they reach to the Gaza Strip. Alongside all of that, some more statements are coming now from global leaders about the situation in Gaza, and they're becoming more and more escalatory. Let's have a look at what the Pakistani leader had to say.
Palestine can no longer remain under Israeli shackles. It must be liberated, and liberated with full commitment and full force.
Full commitment and with full force. We have more and more leaders talking about the use of force with Israel. And after the statement that the Colombian president made, more and more countries are finding it easier to talk about the fact that there's going to be a military intervention, or the prospect of a military intervention, some sort of use of force against the state of Israel.
Well, that's pretty big news there, I must say. It's nice to see there's a bunch of ships that are going to be there to help guide the flotilla in to onto the Gaza shores, we hope. But like I said, some of them are just doing that as a rescue mission, you know, in case something comes up, and make sure that they have the humanitarian aid. That's so at least those two. I don't know what Greece is planning to do. I would assume basically the same kind of thing, but it sounds like maybe Turkey is keeping an eye. I'm not sure what that means. I mean, you know, Erdogan, he's a lot of talk, not too much actual action. But then the Pakistani president, that seemed pretty hardcore there. We'll see what happens with that. So interesting thing going on with Flotilla, that they can have some help after they've been bombarded with drones and flashbangs and chemicals the past few days. So let me go to the next part of the stories here. We're gonna with all that information, to find out where it is. So on the 25th, now mind you, this is new with the Pakistan, with some of this stuff, and I think it might have happened before the other ships and presidents were saying this, I think. So on the 25th, Israel threatens to stop Gaza-bound aid flotilla, despite global appeals, because you remember 16 countries had said don't do that. Israel renewed its threat on Thursday to block a Gaza-bound aid flotilla from reaching the enclave, claiming the territory lies within a combat operations zone. The flotilla, carrying humanitarian aid and activists from multiple countries, has been sailing toward Gaza for days in a bid to challenge Israel's 19-year blockade. 19-year. Oh, wow, okay. Tel Aviv will not allow ships to enter a combat zone, says the Israeli foreign minister. He repeated Israel's claims that it enforces a legal naval blockade, an allegation disputed by rights groups such as Amnesty International, which called the blockade collective punishment and a violation of international law. Sear claimed that Israel had accepted an Italian proposal to unload the flotilla's cargo in the Greek Cypriot administration before transferring it to Gaza, alleging that the organizers refused and proved their real aim is provocation and serving Hamas. Okay. Anyway, this is what's been happening with the Gaza issue with the Gaza-bound flotilla, the ships involved to help them to get there, to stop this blockade of goods to the people. So in the meantime, let's see if I can find it here. Netanyahu spoke at the UN like all the other rest, but let's see what happens with him if you haven't heard already.
Please, order in the hall. 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 Please order in the hall and please be seated.
Look at his face. As you can see, everybody is exiting. Just about everybody. I'd say 2/3 of the group are leaving. They're not going to listen to his BS. And why would you want to listen to somebody who's a war criminal and is okay as committing mass murder, genocide?
Mr. President.
Okay, well, and he starts off by talking about well, I'll just show you what he says, which I find ridiculous after that.
The families of our dear hostages languishing in the dungeons of Gaza.
Oh my gosh. I mean, can you believe the BS here? He does not care about the hostages. What a joke. Anyway, I thought you'd get to find that interesting, maybe even as funny as I did, or he deserved that, in my opinion. So let's move on to Iran. What's been going on with them? So this was on the 22nd. Iranian parliament pushes for nuclear option as deterrence to Western threat. Lawmakers have said the defense doctrine was shaped under conditions that no longer exist. Over 70 members of Iran's parliament on 22nd of September called for a reassessment of the country's defense doctrine, pressing authorities to consider nuclear weapons as a deterrent. In a letter addressed to the Supreme National Security Council and the heads of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, the lawmakers demanded that the issue be raised urgently. We respectfully request that, since the decisions of that council acquire validity with the endorsement of the leader of the revolution, this matter be raised without delay and the expert findings communicated to the parliament. The MPs argued that while the development and use of nuclear arms contradicts the 2010 fatwa of Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei banning them, circumstances have changed. They wrote that developing and maintaining such weapons as a deterrent is another matter, stressing that in Shia jurisprudence, a change in circumstances and conditions can alter the ruling. Moreover, safeguarding Islam, which today is bound to the preservation of the Islamic Republic, is among the paramount obligations. Okay. So lawmakers noted that the nuclear doctrine was shaped at a time when the international community was still able to restrain Israeli aggression. This is a very good point. A very good point. Yes, things have changed since then, definitely regarding that. I mean, Israel has unleashed its fury on everybody around them. They pointed to the large-scale assault launched by Israel in June, backed by the U.S., which included direct strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, among them Fordo. Okay. Let me go to another article about them. So now, as this was on the 26th, Iran to follow own nuclear path, top energy official. The head of the Iranian Atomic Energy Organization, Mohammad Eslami, has blasted the West after UN Security Council voted to reimpose sanctions. Iran will continue its peaceful nuclear program regardless of foreign pressure, he said. The head of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran said. And his comments come as Tehran announced it will halt cooperation on nuclear inspections following new sanctions imposed by the UN Security Council. Last week, Britain, France, and Germany triggered the so-called snapback mechanism, part of the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, between Iran and world powers to limit its nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. The move has led to the reimposition of UN sanctions on Iran and derailed a recent agreement between Tehran and the International Atomic Energy Agency to resume inspections of Iranian nuclear sites. Islami accused the West of double standards and repeated violations of past agreements, stressing that Iran has already unilaterally fulfilled its commitments and they've never fulfilled theirs. True. He also condemned the U.S. for consistently trying to harm Iran through sanctions, aggression, war, conflict, and conspiracy. Yeah, and sanctions are death sentences to average citizens. That's what it hurts. It hurts the average citizens and their ability to get food, medicine, and those kind of things. Islami dismissed Washington's recent calls for Tehran to dismantle its uranium enrichment program, stating that remarks from U.S. officials are of no importance to us. We do not take orders from anyone. He claimed that Iran's nuclear program is and has always been peaceful. He also denied that recent U.S.-Israeli air attacks had crippled Iran's nuclear program, stating that while some people and buildings may have been eliminated, knowledge is in the souls and minds of our scientists, which cannot be destroyed. Well, that's true. Russia and China have opposed the sanctions, with Moscow's UN envoy stating that Russia does not recognize the snapback procedure as legal. Tehran, meanwhile, has argued that more than 130 countries condemned the attacks on its nuclear facilities, which it said shows the majority of the world supports Iran's position. He concluded that Iran remains ready to negotiate but will not abandon its rights. Our path and our programs are clear, he said, stressing that the nuclear program will continue under Iranian control despite sanction strikes and threats. Well, good for them, I must say. And the reason why I think that is because they're a sovereign state, a country, and they can decide what they want to do when they are faced with threats from other countries, Israel, U.S., which is a nuclear country. Then they have a right to protect themselves. Just like we always hear about Izzies. They have a right to protect themselves. Well, so does Iran. Okay, so now I'm going on to this ridiculous, this is just not only ridiculous, it's terrible. Let me see if I can find it. This is from the 23rd. U.S. envoy confirms Washington helping Lebanese army to fight its own people. Barak reiterated U.S. threats that Israel will take care of Hezbollah if Lebanon fails to disarm the resistance group. And what have we said about why this is not a good idea? Because Lebanon's going to be squashed if Hezbollah does not do this. Period. It's the same situation with Hamas in Palestine. As much as Hamas may not be a great group, as a lot of people are saying, they're the only ones trying to defend the Palestinians, other than the Houthis. So, beggars can't be choosers if you're going to be mass murdered and wiped out as a people. And this is what is going to happen if it's going to be the same kind of thing. It's going to be another Gaza in Lebanon if this happens. But I don't think most people want, what I read is most people want Hezbollah to, most Lebanese people want Hezbollah to defend them from the Izzies. So Barak said in an interview released on 22nd September that Washington will support the Lebanese armed forces to fight their own people. It's a good organization, it's well-meaning, but it's not well-equipped. Because who are they going to fight? We're going to arm them so they can fight Israel? I don't think so. So you're arming them so they can fight their own people. Hezbollah. I see. So, again, he's going to cause what? A civil war? I mean, this is just outrageous and ridiculous. Hezbollah is our enemy. Oh, sure. Iran is our enemy. Oh, okay. We need to cut the heads off those snakes and chop the funds. That's the only way you're going to stop Hezbollah. Lebanese, all they do is talk. There's never been one act. We told them, you want our help? We gave them a playbook, but they can't get there. So he's demanding this arm of Hezbollah. Like I said, the average Lebanese people want Hezbollah to defend them. So, again, this guy is a total idiot who's the envoy here, this Barak dude. I'm not liking him. I'm just going to be honest. So, he also said that the Lebanese wanted U.S. President Trump to become Dwight Eisenhower and land those beautiful Marines in the country. That's not going to happen. We're not going to execute. You know who's going to execute? Walk across that border. You see where Jerusalem is? Jerusalem is going to take care of Hezbollah. Oh, terrific. Yeah, like I said. Additionally, Barak said Israel was not withdrawing from the areas it occupies in South Lebanon. He also said Hezbollah was rebuilding its forces. Okay, so earlier this month, Washington approved a $14.2 million package of assistance to help the Lebanese army disarm Hezbollah. This is so ridiculous. Okay. Once again, the U.S. does not care. They're following the ISI agenda. They want the greater ISI as well project. They're wanting that as well because then they have more power and latitude to do what they want as well in this region. So that's my thoughts on that. In the meantime, if I can find it. This is on the 24th, Trump tells Muslim leaders he won't allow Israel annexation of West Bank. Okay, so the U.S. President Donald Trump promised Muslim and Arab leaders during a meeting Tuesday that he would not allow Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to annex the occupied West Bank. 6 people familiar with the discussion told American news website Politico that Trump assured the leaders Israel would not be allowed to absorb the West Bank, which remains under the governance of the Palestinian Authority. 2 of the sources were quoted as saying that the U.S. president was firm on the issue, while others said his team presented a white paper laying out the administration's plan to end Israel's nearly 2-year war on Gaza, including proposals on governance and post-war security. Another source said that despite the president's pledge, a ceasefire to end Israel's nearly 2-year war against Hamas was nowhere close to fruition. The White House did not immediately comment on the report. Trump described the sit-down with 8 Arab and Muslim countries at the UN as most important meeting of the day, saying they were working to end something that should have probably never started. So these are the countries he met with: Turkey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Pakistan, Egypt, and United Arab Emirates, and Jordan. Turkish President Erdogan had said it was a very productive and positive meeting and that he was satisfied with talks. So he had also said that Trump also hailed the gathering as a very successful meeting with all of the big players, except for Israel. I think we could work something out on Gaza. It was a very good meeting with very great leaders. So let's go and see what was said. Also on 26th. Trump says he will not allow Israel to annex occupied West Bank. Donald Trump ruling out Israel's annexation of the occupied West Bank, likely to have major repercussions on Israeli PM Netanyahu. Yes, and according to Smotrich, It ain't going to happen because he's determined, he's hell-bent to take over West Bank. Okay. The United States President Donald Trump has said that Israel cannot annex the occupied West Bank, a statement that puts him firmly at odds with Netanyahu and members of his ultra-nationalist government who have been pressing for annexation of the Palestinian territory. Trump made his surprise remarks while speaking to reporters on Thursday ahead of Prime Minister Netanyahu's arrival in the U.S. to address the United Nations General Assembly in New York on Friday, and we see how that went. Let's see. He says he won't allow it. Nope, I will not allow. It's not going to happen. Well, what gave him all of a sudden a spine to do this? I'm wondering. He's been pretty cowering, the past few months, especially after Charlie Kirk's assassination. He probably thought he was next. But, he's been, as Max Blumenthal said, he's been afraid, Trump has been afraid of being assassinated for many years. He thought this. And then, of course, the two that assassination attempts over this last summer, well, of course, he's going to feel this way, and that he is scared of Netanyahu. So I'm surprised to see him speaking up this way. That is not going to make Netanyahu happy. So, asked whether he had discussed his plans to block any Israeli annexation attempts with Netanyahu, Trump was non-committal. Yeah, but I'm not going to allow it. Whether I spoke to him or not, I'm not allowing Israel to annex the West Bank. There's been enough. It's time to stop now, okay? Okay, well, you know how you do that? You stop giving weapons, stop giving whatever else, money. Yeah. Just him saying it, it's not going to happen, that doesn't mean much to me. I don't know about what it means to you all. Anyway, in the midst of all this, meanwhile, Tony Blair, remember him? 9/11 time, the Iraq War. Yeah. Former PM of England. Tony Blair vying to run Gaza, or being, however you say that. New details have been revealed about the ex-British Prime Minister's plans to administer the Palestinian enclave. Former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair has proposed to lead a transitional administration in Gaza when Israel's military campaign in the enclave ends. Blair is reportedly seeking to chair a body called the Gaza International Transitional Authority, which would oversee reconstruction and eventually transfer power to the West Bank-based Palestinian Authority. Oh yeah, sure, it sounds good. But we, what happens anytime the British get involved. Just historically, if you look at that. One of a dozen concepts proposed by various governments and think tanks, GITA, would seek a UN mandate to be Gaza's supreme political and legal authority for 5 years. If approved, Blair would have a secretariat of up to 25 people funded by Gulf states. The Economist described the plan a distinct improvement over U.S. President Donald Trump's earlier vision of an American-owned Gaza Riviera. Well, anything's better than that, practically. According to the report, GITA would be initially headquartered in El Arish, Egypt, and modeled on past transitional authorities in East Timor and Kosovo. Its mission would include unifying Gaza and the West Bank under the PA. The Ramallah-based Palestinian body currently exercises only limited authority in the West Bank, where the Israeli military exerts dominant control, an arrangement critics have branded as an apartheid system. Israel has previously rejected any role for the PA in governing Gaza after the war. The Financial Times said Washington presented fresh ideas for Gaza's future during its this week's UN General Assembly meetings, including putting Blair on an international supervisory board. Several Arab states reportedly favored a committee of Palestinian technocrats instead. Earlier this month, the Times of Israel detailed Blair's lobbying efforts, including talks with Trump and a July meeting with PA President Mahmoud Abbas, noting that his plan requires significant reforms from the Palestinian Authority and offers it only limited involvement in Gaza. Analysts remain skeptical that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu would back it, given his reliance on right-wing ministers who are urging him to annex all Palestinian territory, including Gaza and the West Bank. Yeah. And what's in it for Blair? Obviously, he's getting money out of this as well. I mean, the man is not squeaky clean, as we know. But that was kind of a surprise to see this come up, but wanted to share that as well. Finally, the last thing I'm going to share is U.S. War Chief orders unusual gathering of top generals amid fears of new war. I saw this the other day, and it sounded very odd and kind of concerning. Lawmakers are calling for new legislation giving President Trump broad authority to go to war. This was out the 25th. Hegseth has ordered hundreds of the U.S. military's top leaders to meet on short notice for an unknown reason at a Marine Corps base in Virginia next week. The Secretary of War will be addressing his senior military leaders early next week, the spokesperson said. The highly unusual directive was sent to virtually all of the military's top commanders worldwide. The announcement comes months after Hegseth announced plans to carry out a major consolidation of top military commands. His abrupt call for such an emergency meeting has led to concerns of a coming conflict. A senior Pentagon official said, "In my 30 years in the U.S. military, I have never seen anything like this. We might be on the brink of war." Okay, so several said it raised security concerns. Okay. I did listen to Colonel McGregor on this the other day, and he thinks it might be that he's going to scale down all the number of generals that are in here. In the Pentagon. But let's get the two Larry's opinion on this.
And here is what we've learned from Washington Post, that Pete Hegseth just calling generals and admirals to have a urgent meeting. And people are speculating, is that about Venezuela? Is that about Middle East? Is that about Russia? Because looking at what's going on between Russia and the United States and the West, it's so much the way that the things are escalating, so much unbelievable, because you see the drones coming to these European countries, and the possibility of a false flag operation that could happen in Europe, in London. Let's assume something happens in London. And how do you see that? And what is your speculation, Colonel, on this meeting? What is the main objective of this meeting?
I have no idea. But first, let me say that it's stupid. We wouldn't even assemble all the sub-commanders in U.S. Pacific Command when I was a member of that command, the largest unified command at the time, in 1984-85. In a single spot. And the way we got around that, of course, was CIVITS was becoming secure video teleconference, and now is even better, a way to talk over long distances and with very little time delay. Now, the President of the United States, for example, CIVITSed with his commander in Baghdad during the Iraq War. Very good system, so you don't need to bring them together. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and this is really foreboding. I hate to even talk about it, but in July 1935, Hitler summoned all of the generals and admirals in the military to Berlin. And he summoned them there to tell them that essentially they were going to have to renew their oath. Their oath would not be to the Weimar Republic's constitution, it would be to Hitler. That's another possibility. Another possibility is that Hegseth is just preening and showing what he can do. And we'll start the whole thing off with getting down on a knee and saying the Lord's Prayer and telling him he's going to Christian nationalize the Department of War or whatever. Another thing is, as you suggested, that Trump could be trying to frighten Putin. Good luck there. Putin's not frightenable. So I have no idea why they're coming together, but it's not very smart.
Yeah. Larry?
Yeah, well,
what do you think?
It's not, I don't think it has anything to do with any war plan, because, again, you're bringing in the generals that work for TRADOC, the training command, or for Space Command. So, you know, it is. I mean, it's very bizarre. Number one, I'm sort of related, but not directly related to this. I am extremely pissed off, I guess is the correct technical term, that you haven't had a single member of the U.S. military in command, any of the generals, none.
Okay, he's going to go into the whole thing about the Venezuela thing because he thinks that the military, those in command, should be going against Trump's orders to be blowing up and bombing boats that they allege that are drug smugglers. But in any case, neither one of them knows obviously what this all means. But all three of them don't seem to be concerned that it's about going to World War III with somebody. And they're more concerned that it could be scaling down the amount of people. I mean, but then again, I'm wondering why would Hegseth need to bring everybody over there so he can scale them down? What would be the reason for that? Colonel Wilkerson also said that he could do like what Hitler did, bring in all of the top military brass, and then saying, well, you're not going to be following Weimer, you're going to be following me. I'm not really sure. I mean, I thought Trump already was like that anyway, so I'm not really sure how that's going to come. It could be preening, as the colonel said. It could be any of these things, but I guess we'll find out next week. Anyway, I hope that's a wrap up of all the news I can tell you about what's going on over there. Other than I will bring up a short thing about the head chopper president of Syria, the former Al-Qaeda, al-Shara, spoke at the UN and, met with all these people. I just find this outrageous and ridiculous. He, they thought, oh, thank God we got that, Assad out of there, but boy, we got this head chopper in here. So we went from an optometrist, an eye doctor, which is what Assad was, and that ruled with authoritarian rule, to a former Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra head chopper, leader of these groups, head chopper, terrorist, as Syria's leader. Yeah, how's that going? I don't think it's much better. I think it's not better than when Assad was in there, because I know for a fact that Antiochian church was in Damascus. Patriarch John X would talk about things that he wanted to do. For instance, he opened a school, a college, just before Assad was fled and there was the coup. So he protected the minorities. Wasn't the best, we all know. But we have to understand that every single leader in the Middle East rules with an iron fist, because if they don't, they get cooed or thrown or killed by terrorists. It's a different setup there. It's a different whole culture and world, and it's more dangerous with regard to trying to keep this whatever person in power. That's the way I understand it. Anyway, I hope you got something out of this. I hope it was informative for you. Share if you feel like it's something you want to share. Thanks so much for watching, for following my channel. I hope you all have a blessed day. Until next time.